Welcome, everybody, to Mud Flood Was Armageddon. The Mud Flood was the Armageddon. Don't let them tell you anything else unless they're willing to debate you in a fair, non-violent way. I'm kind of waiting on RJ to pop in. Starting to, looks like a few minutes late here, but I do want to talk about art and the art project. I'd like to have RJ in on it, but he's probably getting frustrated trying to sign in. They make it difficult. I am going to go ahead and do the disclaimer. I got that disclaimed because I am going to be showing some videos. So I am going to be showing some pictures. I'm going to start with that right now. Let's see what we got here. This is the last screenshot. The Charlie Kirk, Candace Owen. What's the big deal? The big deal is they're charismatic Roman Catholic stretching out you, something that should be solved. This guy here, it's a completely corrupt Freemasonic structure, and they're trying to fix the government. I thought that was good, and so there was that one. That was the Sutro Bath. This could have been a exhibition hall for one of those, the Chicago exhibition or Seattle, you name it, the Memphis. But they made this one into an ice skating rink, swimming pool, and then tore it down in 1958. It was powered by these, the same thing, great big spinning engines. That's what's left of it. That's the area. I don't know, maybe you guys can see something going on there. You're investing in real physical paintings. Masterwork has over 600,000 members. So I was refreshing my memory last night about Roman history and stuff, looking at, not even noticing the mud flood stuff, but on popped their sponsor, a commercial about Masterworks. And it fit in with what I was learning about how the art market is fake. And that's why, they're everybody's heard about the art, like Hunter Biden turned to art and sold some paintings. It's how they launder money and have been laundering money. And now they're trying to trickle it down because they need every penny when they crash the stock market. So I was just shocked that now they have it. 13 billion hedge fund set to buy shares in Amazon, but now they're gonna the Met, that's a art museum, was kept alive by magnates like Rockefeller. And it continues with the modern CEOs. How tax write-offs, spending billions to it, do the propaganda. Here, art's doing better, and I guess they want to call that art. This is obviously computer stuff, but the computer knows what they trained people to like, accept. Yet, despite the trillions lost on the market, auctions from art, it's coming around. And so I saw in a TV show about the Sutro baths. I see a blimp in the background, a mud flood building here surrounding this. We're in a TV show. This is what they had turned it. I thought, see the framing, see the rivets. You can tell it was turned into a museum. The rivets, like the Golden Gate. They covered it up. Look at that. I want to get, I think I heard RJ finally get his deal set. Are you there, RJ?
I feel as though I'm here.
You're here and you're coming through loud and clear. I'm trying to set up the art aspect of what I got going and how it ties into silver, everything. It's just where I'm at today, man. Those rings, I don't think those are 18 karat that I told you about. I think they're more like 10 karat gold. So, but at least it's got that going. So what's up with you, man? Before I keep going on, I got a couple more pictures to show.
Well, I think I feel a little better than I have. So whether it's a long lasting improvement or
Right. It's
phase, can't say.
stretch out slowly. Did hear a little bit of an echo, but let me go back to the pictures because I think I'm going to be okay. So I started with this one. It was a Roman Catholic thing. That's the big deal. This guy's got it figured out. You can't, listen to these two people argue about, well, she's just trying to let it go to trial and let the jury decide. No, it was my friend. Roman Catholic, charismatic, trying to fix the government that is a completely corrupt Freemonic structure. It's not going to work. I was showing that the Sutro baths, all of them were found and then destroyed. The Sutro baths made it to 1958, though. And then I was watching, you know, Holden Stone, and an art commercial came on, RJ. 600,000 people now in the stock market can invest in masterwork performance. Brought over $25 million to their investors last year. Have you heard of the Hunter Biden? He makes the art and it's a shell game
Yeah,
kept alive by the Rockefellers and the modern CEOs. The people in the 1980s wondered how can they pay Michael Jackson $5 million for one commercial? Because it's a tax write-off. He gets the money, it's a tax write-off. They get it out there, his hair catches on fire, and the rest is, I guess, history. Uh, Anything to take away from that's performing better in the last 270 years, that's not quite the 2046 model I'd like people to look at, but it's putting it back there when the Freemasons and everybody started this, deciding what's good art, who's the next Leonardo da Vinci, who's the next Thomas Gainsborough. Trillions lost in the market, auction's good. Thomas Gainsborough did the Blue Boy just to prove that you could use blue. Powerful engines covering up the past. This is the highest glassware. And it's, once again, RJ, years and years, we see the same thing. Newcastle, 1768. It looks like J768 to me. There's your Freemason. It's, they paid in quid. And I don't know what quid is, but
everything you
very,
can imagine.
and oh, I got some of these pictures too. Look, that's a 9/11. Pentagon has resolved the time discrepancy with blank tiles. NORAD reported back there's no evidence that a plane hit the building. There's always been a lot of speculation around that being a big deal, RJ. Could I have a test audio of you? Because
Yeah, I'm
no,
here.
that's better. That's better.
I'm observing,
This,
thinking. Yeah,
you remember April Gallup? We don't talk about that anymore. She walked out of this hole in the wall carrying her son. Her desk was only 40 feet from where the plane allegedly hit the outside wall, RJ.
Yeah.
I guess that's not art, but it's something I got. April Gallup, got videos. I could not see parts of the airplane that crashed into the building. So there a lot of quotes. Nobody saw anything because it didn't happen. It's just that 9/11 was they don't want to hear it's an inside job, but I guess that's some of the rare pictures they show. That doesn't have anything to do with the art and the oxygen. I'm just throwing that out there, man. Because I got a few other things I'd like you to see. Kindersport, young refugees. These are Jewish people that were taken from Germany from 1938 to 1940. They rescued the girls, it looks like. And it was something here. It says, I forget what the video was called, but they really played this up. Look at how many different Jewish statues there are scattered around airports as a tribute to the British people for saving thousands of lives, the Jewish lives from the Nazi terror, when they said, "It's so bad here, we have to send our children to you." That sounds familiar. He did it. He lived through it. He lived through it. They're supposed to be famous. She lived through it. She turned out to be the first sex therapist that anything goes. That's another in London, Berlin. Kind of reminds me of like the orphan trains and stuff. They called it Kinder Transport, 10,000 children. I was a little bit fascinated, got into the free city of Danzig. From 19, the League of Nations ran this one. They said, yeah, predominantly German populated, but we're not going to turn it over to the Austria-Hungary thing, the whole Versailles thing. League of Nations, something that President Wilson started, our Congress rejected, but the rest of the world was into, and they had the free city of Danzig until 1939 when you know who. Here's the biggest problem. What is this guy going with here?
Turning Point USA, myself, any of these other crazy accusations, none of us.
Okay, so this is what I mean.
Again, anybody who knows Christ biblically doesn't trust any person in the world. We trust in God. We're not expecting anybody who has friendship with the world to be honest. We know that there's a whole bunch of collusion, there's a whole bunch of deception and corruption. We already understand that. And it's just sad that people have not learned from COVID 2020. They didn't learn from September 11th. They didn't learn from anything that they're using.
Apparently, RJ, that guy doesn't think that we learn from anything. He might have a point.
Well, there's a lot of information out there. Yeah, what's important? There's a few priorities.
The 9/11 is super important. I learned something. I had tied in how they did the silver market crash of 1873 in Leadville, Colorado, which was a model of Cloud City that they took from Star Wars, brought the Guggenheim Museum, and then another man tied it in to the whole art thing. That's why I was showing that art's becoming a thing for the common man to at least understand it, which is why I got this one here. The CIA wrote your favorite novels, and then this one, how the CIA tricked the world into liking this painting. Art Chad blows it away. But this guy gives it a little bit of a warm up.
That a novelist that you love was affiliated with an intelligence. intelligence agency. Because if you don't believe me, well, our warm-up is going to start with Cormac McCarthy and Ernest Hemingway, and that's just going to get the party started, because today we are going all of the way, because that's what we do here on Right Conscious. We talk about the best books and authors of all time, nothing but transformative literature, but we don't stop there. We talk also about taboo topics in literature, and most importantly,
Hey, RJ, it's like looking in a mirror when I was 19 years old.
how to create
Yeah,
a
well,
literary
as far
renaissance,
as
how to use
um, the result, bang for your buck for whatever market is, or whatever market they're trying to manipulate or even form. Like you say, with art, that's kind of a generic term. I mean, there's some really amazing art, and then some. We're here. Look at this. What do you think? Um, that'd be like we're in my mind similar to getting talking people into collecting stuff, whatever that item may be. It can be the brown paper bag and the paper clips and pieces of string of
Right. I collect
depression era,
ceramic
or
ducks from Ducks
or
Unlimited.
the neatest Star Wars model, whatever, either figurine or who knows what, the collections that exist that have been packaged, assembled, packaged, and not even opened, because, and it's, how old, the nonsense, and then whatever you can have that, as far as appraised at,
Right.
yeah,
And whatever you
there's some
think it's worth.
crazy
We've been programmed. And it's all going to
characters.
come back to the 1933 Works program. Ernest Hemingway and that other knucklehead he named, they were all hired by the government to write books about our history. We have to keep even the artist employed. They had people building the dams, blocking the roads. They had people making movies. They had people painting paintings. They funded the arts. Then it went bad. Then it went good. You got to hear this guy and then the next guy, more importantly.
literature to change the world. And that's what I'm going to do here right now in this presentation, and reverse the course of history, even if all of our heroes were involved with intelligence agencies, excuse me. And so if you guys want to go along on this journey with me, make sure to hit the subscribe button. And enough from me. Let's talk about the CIA. And you guys already know where we got to start with the man, the myth, the legend himself, the people's champion, our fallen hero, supposedly the voice of American literature. And with this author, we have hard facts. And some of the authors we're going to be talking about today are going to be speculative reaches by me, but we have at least 10 that were involved. And we have the documents to prove it with intelligence agencies, which is mind-boggling, because a lot of the time, intelligence agencies only show us what they want to show us, the documents that we get.
And he wants time on the camera before he gets to it, but these guys sponsored it. They did it, and he proves it. But the next video is the one that's most important. And I'm going to try to let you get a background here, and then I'll let you fill us in.
Cultural propaganda campaign in American history. They laundered millions through fake foundations, funded magazines across 6 continents, turned a ragtag group of New York painters into the defining art movement of the 20th century. And for 17 years, nobody knew. Everything you're about to learn in this video is based off of publicly available information. So if you have no idea what I'm talking about thus far, get ready for one of the greatest stories of the 20th century.
Art Chad.
This all starts with the founding of the Museum of Modern Art in New York City in 1929. The museum was conceived of by Abby Eldrick Rockefeller, the wife of John D. Rockefeller Jr. one of the heirs to his father's Standard Oil fortune. The museum would change locations for the next decade until Rockefeller Jr. would donate the land for the museum's now permanent location. It is around this time in 1940 that Abbey appoints their son, Nelson Rockefeller, to be the museum's president. During this period, Nelson, who was fluent in Spanish, had expressed concern to then President Roosevelt over Nazi influence in South America. Roosevelt would appoint him to head of the Office for Inter-American Affairs, the OIAA, an agency tasked with countering German and Italian propaganda.
What do you think it's so far, man?
Yeah, it appears that it could get informative.
OIAA. I wonder if there's... That's Alcoholics Anonymous. Nope. Was about the airport stuff, man. I wanted to hear this OIAA art thing, man. No, they're not going to get off of it. A little bit more of that guy filling us in.
Propaganda in the region. With his experience as the head of the MoMA, Rockefeller gets the idea. Why not use American art as cultural propaganda in South America? You see, prior to World War II, America wasn't seen as the center of the art world or artistically important at all. In fact, many European countries painted America as a cultural backwater. By showcasing the dynamism of America, Rockefeller would hope to change this. Rockefeller would use his position to tour 19 American art exhibitions around Latin America. This is the very first time in our story that government and art institutions would join forces, a precursor to what would become America's greatest cultural psyop. Nelson would step down from his position at the MoMA to focus on the OIAA full-time as World War II ramped up. He would be replaced by John Hay Whitney, a philanthropist and recipient of a $20 million trust fund at the age of 22. Under Whitney...
That's a lot of money. And RJ, these Rockefellers, I mean, there's Nelson Rockefeller, Happy Rockefeller, whoever that Rockefeller was who was the governor of Arkansas the same time they had a Rockefeller brother, the governor of New York. It is confusing, I think, with so many of them.
I've heard of a Norman Rockwell, and I've seen some of his handiwork. But yeah, unreal.
Right. That looks like art, but it seems like that guy was in the CIA too. They're all messed up.
Yeah.
I'm going to let it roll.
Whitney's leadership, MoMA announced in a press release the museum would serve as a weapon of national defense and would also serve as a vital force available to aid in welding solidarity in the hemisphere. Whitney would also have to break from his position during the height of World War II and take a position with the Office of Strategic Services, the OSS, a precursor to the Central Intelligence Agency. Here he would be stationed in France, and it is on the front lines of the European theater he would meet Nelson Rockefeller's longtime friend, Allen Dulles. The man who would go...
The guy that does the Banana Republic, the head of the CIA, did the Bay of Pigs. They set up the whole, John F. Kennedy had to fire him and he was going to crash them into 1,000 pieces. I believe that's all a plan to set up Roman Catholics as, see, they're not all bad. What do you got?
Yeah, it's a interesting tale.
It really is. It gets more weird.
Go on to be the first civilian director of the CIA. After the war ended, Rockefeller returned to his position as the president of the MoMA in 1946. Inspired by Rockefeller's initial Latin American exhibitions, the State Department would go on to fund the greatest piece of cultural diplomacy yet created by America. Curated by a man named J. Leroy Davidson, the State Department would fund a massive modern art exhibition titled Advancing American Art. The show would include 79 paintings from painters ranging from full abstract to social realism, and it would be split between a show in Eastern Europe and one in Latin America. This was, of course, all public knowledge. It was a state-funded endeavor with no attempt to hide the money. And because of this transparency, it was open for backlash. On February 18th, 1947, Look magazine would publish a hit piece titled, Your Money Bought These Paintings, which would showcase the modernist works in a negative light, many of which were created by immigrants.
It probably wasn't hard to showcase it in a negative light. They did the same thing in the 1980s with some of the people that it's like, they hung art in the same museums where it was a crucifix and a bottle of urine. Right? I mean, I remember that.
I've heard, yeah, that story. But,
This is how they incite us. And what happened? Check it out.
with foreign sounding names. This article would cause mass conservative backlash, with President Truman himself commenting on a painting by Yasuo Kuniyoshi, saying, "If that's art, then I'm a Hottentot." From the Look magazine article, the exhibition was promptly canceled, Davidson was fired, and all 79 paintings will be sold at auction as assets for a grand total of just under $6,000, with works by now famous artists like Georgia O'Keeffe selling for under $50, mostly to tiny universities and colleges around the country who could afford the small price. Those 79 paintings today are worth $14 million. And fun fact, if you watch and go to a tiny university or college in the US that for some reason has an extremely famous painting in its art collection, this is why. We now arrive at 1947, and the lesson is clear. Cultural propaganda works, but neither the public nor a conservative Congress would approve of such endeavors. If this is to be done correctly, it has to be done covertly. Luckily, the OSS just disbanded, and
Man, these guys are scaring me. Woo! So they got the art.
yeah, how to get her done. Yeah.
Well, just a little bit more on the plan, then we're going to move it on. Hey, check these guys out. So they went around the world doing this.
Soviet Union. But this wasn't just about peace. In 1949, fascism had lost, and the world was cleanly divided between communism and capitalism, with many drawn to communism's promises of peace and equality. And the US had but one concern. You can be a radical, you can be a hippie, you can be a leftist, but you are never allowed to be a communist. Under this belief, a counter-protest of American anti-communists was held at the Waldorf Astoria during the Soviet summit. This counter-protest would set the precedent.
Can they really just play these honkies that well to where they do whatever they want, whenever they want, and try to hide the fact that while they're out there protesting whatever, if they went to a baseball game that day, it was either a black team or a white team, because in the 30s, 40s, 50s, they didn't mix, man. It wasn't, hey, mom, I'm a targeted individual. A little bit more of this guy. We'll get into some recent history.
Send people to kill me, but that wouldn't have happened if I had Proton VPN. VPNs aren't a luxury anymore. They're essential for anybody who cares about their digital autonomy.
As one of 5 children to a single mother in California. These weren't the children of aristocrats trained from birth in classical styles. These were poor Americans trying to make something of themselves. And it's during the Great Depression in the 1930s, many of them would get their first break. Ironically enough, through a state-funded art program. The Federal Art Project was a New Deal program designed to support artists during the Great Depression. It would pay artists between $23 and $35 a week to paint murals, create furniture, and other pieces of public art. Notably, because this was a state program, it made no distinction between artist styles or backgrounds, allowing painters and artists to develop avant-garde abstract styles with a social safety net. Pollock, de Kooning, Rothko, Krasner, Gorky, Klein, and Guston all got their start under the Federal Art Project, without which...
Wow. So when I was trying to figure this out and tracing the art movement a couple of years ago, it started out in Leadville. I'll show you how it went down.
Oh, how the budget was created?
How the budget was created. So there was a town that's almost 2 miles, the highest incorporated city in the United States. And it is surrounded by the 2 tallest peaks in Colorado. So it's a rough place to live, yet the mud flood buildings are there, the opera houses, the legend. So they had to refill it. And there's silver there. And they went and got it. It was the cloud city where the other rare elements, the uranium, the cobalt, lead was very valuable. Gold has always been right there. They had to explain it away. They had to make it work. the Golden Borough. I'm just, you know, that's where they built these ice palaces. We've seen whole videos about the Masonic people doing that. The Tabor Opera House with these cinder rows were the most expensive, comfortable chairs imported because they use them in Russia. But everybody had one. But the guy never took a bath, blah, blah, blah. It's a cover up. But when, you know, I was digging around in there, they found the gold. They had passed laws that the government is going to buy this much silver because we ignored silver for too long. Founded by Tabor and Mayer. That sounds Jewish, but I'm not going to get into him. Kansas City sounds like the charismatics that Turning Point USA founded their ministries on. The newspapers hit the ground. They had a Republican and a Democrat, of course. Saloons, opera houses, houses of prostitution, the whole thing. The guy left his wife for the younger girl. What a surprise and shocking thing. Now, the Sherman Act, they had to buy 4.5 million every month. And it was going, but then they stopped it in 1893. No more buying 2 million a month. So Colorado, Leadville crashed. Where we're going to get this kind of money with those kind of numbers? The guy who owned the smelting was named Guggenheim. He gets in here. This is one of the rare metals that you could find only in Cloud City. So they said, so they had to make it work at 2 miles high. Interesting name for a mine, but that's what they called it. The Matt Dillon, Poker Alice was there. Even Tesla went through this town. Wild Bill Hickok, the Doc Holliday, he's buried there. Molly Brown, who became famous from the Titanic, the unsinkable Molly Brown. Everything comes back to Cloud City. This guy, Jack Dempsey, from a town near me, only 25 miles away, he went to jail there. He got famous there. Where is the Guggenheim? Let's see. Historic districts, historic people. Again, with the baby doe, they can't get enough of that story, and her husband who never bathed. Am I going to have to go and do the Guggenheim thing? Did I miss it? Let's see. Control F. There's the Guggenheim. Okay, so it was Guggenheim, and their family started out in Leadville doing the mining and the smelting. I don't know how I missed that. But Meyer Guggenheim, supposedly a genius at the stock market because he sold out days, week before. He said, you know what, I've had it with this town. It's too cold. I think I'm going to sell everything and move to New York. So he did. And all of these people became famous, his business in modern art. Look, his donations founded that CIA situation. I think we're tying it together now. And where's Peggy? Where's Peggy? There she is. Through his son Benjamin, the Guggenheim grandfather art collector of, it's like, I guess she was open in her sexuality to where she paid one of those artists he wouldn't sleep with her because she was Jewish. That Jackson Pollock. She said, "Well, will you sleep with me for $100,000?" And he said, "Yeah, he did." And so she's a bohemian, a socialite from the wealthy family, the daughter of the one who didn't make it through the Titanic. RJ, you got anything on that?
Yeah, deep subject as far as that. The direction.
The
Um,
Astor families. It seems like all of the families that still run the world had to sacrifice some of their family to speculation all the way on that one.
yeah,
This
I
guy,
can't say why.
where's that one at? Oh, I clicked off of that one that was about the art because I was going through the Leadville, had the Peggy Guggenheim, the Astors. So how nice is it when you can do that? The grandparents they claim are this thing, RJ. Ashkenazi Jewish descendants. It seems so fake. Turned 21, inherited, this much money, and she decided to fund the artist, get the museum used by the CIA, supposedly without her knowledge, propping up all of the weirdest. To me, it explains everything. I want other people to get it, only because I want them to know about this kind of stuff.
She was somebody who was working in the Pentagon of the day of the attacks and actually exited out the front of the Pentagon through the supposed hole placed there by a plane before the collapse with her son, by the way, that she got out of daycare. We went and interviewed one of the individuals who wouldn't go on camera. That was a local news reporter that gave a certain perspective of the Pentagon. I would do more of that. If there was not a budget restriction, I would be going to the schools that these hijackers were reported to have trained at or bases and seeing what kind of records I could get, seeing if I could get that interview with.
It's not like they haven't given us the proof, but James Coburn, it took him 5 years before he accepted the 9/11 story. It took me 10. I knew the government was bad.
Yeah, I think it followed the trillions, wasn't it?
The Lord works in mysterious ways. How does he open eyes at different times? And yet we're going to meet on the narrow road because our meeting on the narrow road is revolving around in our world, at least 9/11 for the last 10 years. It's all about 9/11, the fake of it all.
Yeah, that was and still seems to be a significant event. If it, yeah, your Pearl Harbor scenario or shores of North, what the storming of D-Day. There's, history has some classics that seem to.
Yeah, the Pearl Harbor thing. But remember the Maine. That was another one. There's so many different, where do you start if somebody says, I'll listen to you? Do you start at Building 7?
Well, listening to any tragedy, yeah, is horrifying, as you probably can or may not imagine. Yeah, but yeah, there are these that stand above somehow, and not just
Is
sheer numbers, just an event that was either told louder or uh,
is this guy a robot?
Silver just touched miner hedges production 210 days out. No industrial user needs to short that.
well, I don't
What
think
we were looking at,
sometimes a voice doesn't go with your preconceived imagination face, and this may be some sort of comparison. I don't know.
naked short
But
selling
that
is
doesn't distract me uh, with his message or what he's saying. But I'm not saying it can't be somehow. Again,
Right,
but
because look at his
I get
videos.
what as far as what he has available, what he's done. Who knows what he'll be
We're
cranking
looking
out?
at it.
But it seems somewhat consistent. Um,
6 days, 5, 4, 3, 3, 2, 2. He started a month
you know,
ago, November 7th, but he didn't put out anything until this week. Got
it's
31,000 videos. I'm suspicious, but his information is so timely for me.
yeah, and you have those people providing content. However, whatever that implies, some quite a bit, or it seems, effort wise, and then it it could be that, like a lot of material shows, you do an entire season before
You
you
dropped
can
this
release
season.
anything at that sort of scheduling and
Why am I
consistent.
always so suspicious, though, that I think that this is another setup like that 1893 thing where people are going to get silver, they get stuck right before some sort of a disaster? Because I want people to
Oh,
pay attention. I want them to get silver. I want them to be smart. I want them to learn how to make flywheel power. Oh, man.
yeah, well, there was a time I set my mind and I did uh, some sound offs back to back, uh, which represent 200 word maximum, and then
Right.
through that process, um, and I'm not saying as a comparison, but to be prepared, if you're limited, or maybe more often than not, you may be your own editor if you're doing that, where uh, whatever you're providing, you're trying to hit some sort of window of consistency. Um, some feel that's necessary. Others couldn't care less. But it's sometimes restricting uh, how much they want to put out, and have good subject matter
And
with
sometimes, like
more than just
Ezekiel,
adequate
what would people
information.
like you be trying to explain to people if you were witnessing Ezekiel after 310 days get up, stretch, and say, okay, I'm changing to my right side now. This is me representing Judah.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
mean, that sounds for the prophet, the writer of the book,
the
that
editor
sounds
material,
boring. Oh, you're going to do what? I'm going to
the
layer another.
narrating, yeah, the narrating during live real time processing. Yeah, patience, you know, some messages require time.
We
And
got
that's understandable.
the shocking things that people born in the 50s that grew up in the 70s that they have no idea when we try to explain to them there were no blacks on TV, it wasn't allowed. You know what I mean? That's they don't get it.
Yeah, it transitioned, and you're going to have, I'm sure you're, the classic examples. But yeah, and then like you say, from movie where role reversal, more or less, was also in there. And then yeah, and to maintain, the situation, comedy, humor of all the crazy shows are still on Me TV, available for
Right.
that audience. And yeah, those are all timestamps, uh, transitioning in real time. And that, probably means something. Everybody sharing uh, a lot of those feelings, experiences, and emotions of whatever that nonsense was. It's airwave
Okay.
distractions,
I want
but
to
it
spend about another
does
15
take,
minutes, but I do want
a
to
lot of
ask you a
attention to
question,
it.
RJ, that is, to do with this. Is anything a salvation issue to the other content providers that I see talking about flat earth, golden age past, the millennium reign is over? With them, it's like, well, let's interview this charismatic. Let's interview this prosperity speaker. Let's interview this person who's undecided. There has to be some sort of a okay, you're a Christian. Now you're saved. You're a Bible acceptor.
Yeah, with just trying to, save the youth. With adults, most, and not that people can't change, uh, but when it comes to personal challenges, one-on-one, uh, you know, at least attempt to do the right thing. That the Good Samaritan is always up for debate. Um, but yeah, it's motives and intent,
Let,
and
let's let's uh let's do
sifting.
some Bible. Now, yesterday I was showing how you know a lot of our books around the second temple, it's going to be built, and who did it? It's emphasized, Cyrus, Darius, in Nehemiah, these guys, it was I was working for the king. May the king live forever. And the Nehemiah happened to have a King Artaxerxes who was ready to help. Zechariah, the leaders of Judah, the people of Jerusalem are my strength. They were brought back, and it did have that time of the Gentiles, but I want to focus on that when in the book of Galatians, it was they were trying to force this on Gentiles. And this is when, the great fall, right before the great falling away. So let's go over this a little bit. If you want to do the first 6 verses, RJ, and then we'll talk
Yeah,
about it. Are
I'll
you good?
expand before. I,
Because this is somebody was trying to put them in a yoke of slavery, RJ.
It is for freedom that Christ has set us free. Stand firm, then, and do not be encumbered once more by a yoke of slavery. Take notice. I, Paul, tell you that if you let yourselves be circumcised, Christ will be of no value to you at all. Again, I testify to every man who gets himself circumcised that he is obligated to obey the whole law. You who are trying to be justified by the law have been severed from Christ. You have fallen away from grace. But by faith we eagerly await through the Spirit the hope of righteousness. For in Christ Jesus neither circumcised nor uncircumcised has any value. What matters is faith expressing itself through love.
Wow, that's getting right to the point. And as we are in, the stage we're at right now, love is kind of misunderstood. A lot of people are reading it right that, by faith, they were eagerly waiting. I saw my first rapture watch. December 21st, they're saying is another rapture watch date. So,
Okay.
but we have things now. There were people that I think he considered saved, and he. So let's continue all the way down through 15, RJ, because they're preaching something wrong.
I should continue here at 7.
Yeah, let's do
You
that.
were running so well. Who has obstructed you from obeying the truth? Such persuasion does not come from the one who calls you. A little leaven works through the whole batch of dough. I am confident in the Lord that you will take no other view. The one who is troubling you will bear the judgment, whoever he may be. Now, brothers, if I am still preaching circumcision, why am I still being persecuted? In that case, the offense of the cross has been abolished. As for those who are agitating you, I wish they would proceed to emasculate
Wow.
themselves. For you, brothers, were called to freedom, but do not use your freedom as an opportunity for the flesh. Rather, serve one another in love. The entire law is fulfilled in a single decree: love your neighbor as yourself. But if you keep on biting and devouring one another, watch out, or you will be consumed by one another.
RJ, look at that. What I highlighted. That reminds me so much of something that his brother in Christ would say, the Apostle John. John and Peter, who was a Jew like Paul and did have a massive amount of forgiveness applied to, Saul turned Paul. Anything you want to add before you wrap this up and we move on to chapter 6?
Yeah, when it comes, competing for chief of sinners, I know I'm in the running.
Did you ever have an
And all
innocence,
that implies, that's
childhood
well, a huge,
innocence?
huge amount of forgiveness.
Did you ever
Sir,
have one? Do you ever
pardon?
remember a childhood innocence? Again, I wanted to ask you that for a while because I mean, you bring it up sometimes, and I'm always, and I know, and did you do you ever remember being an innocent child?
I can't say I do. Um,
Well, no, I think most people do, RJ. So, I mean, we don't know what's up, but we do know
oh,
that forgiveness is real. And whatever you
yeah,
got going, you sure have
there is an
walked the walk
inch
and
of
talked the talk for
innocence,
a
but
long
I can't
time.
recall um, that vivid memory. Why would, yeah, I I'm trying to imagine it, but I know there are, or if, yeah, well,
Oh yeah,
I'm hoping
I was
with
so
all the,
innocent.
yeah, I'm sure we're able to condemn ourselves on our own, with or whatever, we've been taught to believe.
Right. Well, you're my
I,
trusted big brother now, so all of that. Let's
yeah,
do this.
it's
Go ahead
probably
and
more of
finish
a
this
hope, or
because
I wish there were days of innocence,
well, there's
um,
days of forgiveness and a
but
rewarder
them
of
are
those
to
who
come, maybe.
diligently seek
You know,
Him.
yeah, not where I'm implying the youth and its innocence. Where, well, a child, infant can't take care of themselves, so that's
Right.
full reliance. So
When he reads
it's
this,
probably
people,
at a
it's going to
time
get
where,
pretty graphic, and it's going to be pretty much. We've all been down this road. So why don't you go ahead, RJ?
16.
Yep.
So I say, walk by the Spirit, and you will not gratify the desires of the flesh. For the flesh craves what is contrary to the Spirit, and the Spirit what is contrary to the flesh. They're opposed to each other, so that you do not do what you want. But if you are led by the Spirit, you are not under the law. The acts of the flesh are obvious: sexual immorality, impurity and debauchery, idolatry and sorcery, hatred, discord, jealousy and rage, rivalries, divisions, factions, and envy, drunkenness, orgies, and the like. I warn you, as I did before, that those who practice such things will not inherit the kingdom of God. But the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self control. Against such things there is no law. Those who belong to Christ Jesus have crucified the flesh with its passions and desires. Since we live by the Spirit, let us walk in step with the Spirit. Let us not become conceited, provoking, and envying one another.
That sounds like good advice because in the long run, RJ, that whole getting blotted out of the book of life thing, yow, who wants that?
Well, it's real. For the
But we're
Yeah,
going to deal
oh
with
yeah,
people on the
exactly.
narrow road
No
that
one wants
still
that. I can
fall.
imagine.
Here's how we deal with these brothers that sometimes fall. RJ, if you could go down through verse 8 through here.
Brothers, if someone is caught in a trespass, you who are spiritual should restore him with a spirit of gentleness. But watch yourself, or you also may be tempted. Carry one another's burdens, and in this way you will fulfill the law of Christ. If anyone thinks he is something when he is nothing, he deceives himself. Each one should test his own work. Then he will have reason to boast in himself alone and not in someone else. For each one should carry his own load. Nevertheless, the one who receives instruction in the word must share in all good things with his instructor. Do not be deceived. Do not be deceived. God is not to be mocked. Whatever a man sows, he will reap in return. The one who sows to please his flesh, from the flesh will reap destruction. But the one who sows to please the Spirit, from the Spirit will reap eternal life. Let us not grow weary in well doing, for in due time we will reap a harvest if we do not give up. Therefore, as we have opportunity, let us do good to everyone, and especially to the family of faith.
There is a pretty tall order, RJ. Now, anything you want to add the whole, there's no fate. It's reaping what you sow. Carry other people's burdens, go the extra mile. We
Yeah,
have
it's
a
the
family
golden
of faith.
rule. Yeah, in
Do you
work
think
in
people could
progress.
tell
Yeah.
that the Apostle Paul really signed those letters by, his handwriting style? Do you think that's why they did that back in the day?
Well, I mean, yeah, it's self-descriptive, as far as what's conveyed, and yeah, it's probably, you know, uh, if you need proof or evidence, that's he doesn't have the wax seal. He has where there's other methods of doing stuff, but yeah, that's his own method. Yeah, I suppose. And then again, breaking it down, if he had poor eyesight, that's just the symptom,
Yeah.
but but identifiable, you know, and you don't need some specialist come in and interpret the text, as far as what he wrote and what it means. But he had his style.
And it was his style. He talks about how that then you are Abraham's seeds while he's talking to Gentiles, the ones that left him. He talks about the council in Jerusalem. He went up there. He talked about it. It talks about how he confronted Peter. These things really happened. It talked about how if it were possible, they would have gouged their own eyes out and given them to him.
Yeah, that's describing a serious commitment.
Did you see the what I highlighted? The summarization of what Paul was saying is that what it all comes down to is the new creation. There are some people that are saved. They are the new creation. There are people that are going to be told, you might have healed and built in my name, but I never knew you. You have to depart from me. I never knew you. You're wicked, vile. So the walking, the finding the truth, the sticking to it, the understanding that we have a new creation. We are seeds planted in soil that have from before the foundation of the world, like the parable. Here's your 5 talents. You should make 10. If you do, well on you, and you'll probably get more. Your comments on that, brother, as we're prepared to wrap up.
Yeah, seizing the opportunities, with the foresight of, I don't know, some sort of motives and intent. Yeah, it's there are challenges.
And I
Without a
think
doubt.
there's going to be challenges on the narrow road for me, for you, of dealing with people. Who do we trust? Who do we not trust? How do we lean into what love really is instead of the feel like making love? Well, that is Eros love, not the agape love we're looking for.
Yeah, correct. uh, and yeah, and maturity seems to influence, some of those how priorities are readjusted. But yeah, it's the time at hand for everyone's
Returning
from
to
their
your
own
first love
perspective.
again. We
Uh,
we have that, people. We have this opportunity. We're going to go through another rapture type event, but it's going to keep getting harder and harder. This is as good as it's going to get. It's only going to get worse. They're going to shut down your money. They're going to shut down the 6G or whatever they got going now. It's going to happen because this is not a restoration. This is a judgment. It's a flat earth nation. The golden age is past. The mud flood was Armageddon. Me and my friends aren't going to tell you anything else because we're called, chosen to have been driven to our knees and confess with our mouth what we believe in our heart. Jesus Christ alone is God creator and Messiah. Amen. Hallelujah. Aho. Aloha. Ari. Badarchi Chow Sanar Afirase Nakame. That's how I'm saying goodbye for now from the border of Colorado and New Mexico. Hasta luego.